All right, welcome back, everyone. We're diving into a topic that I think a lot of folks have been thinking about lately. It's the idea of needing a church, or maybe not needing a church.
Yeah.
Our source material today is a talk called The Need for a Church. It was given by President Dallin Oaks, who's a leader in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. He gave this talk back in 2021, and I think it's really relevant, especially considering what we see happening across different religions today.
Yeah, I think you're right. And one of the things he points out right at the beginning is that church attendance has been declining. This is happening across a lot of different denominations, not just one specific group. So it's kind of setting the stage for why he's even talking about this need for a church in the first place.
It seems like he's trying to get to the root of why people are pulling away from organized religion. And he does that, at least initially, by using a story. It's about a couple named Kenneth and Lucille.
Oh, yeah, I remember that part. They're described as these good and religious-minded people. They believe in God, they try to live good lives, but they just don't see the need to actually go to church.
It's like they think they can be good without organized religion, which is something we hear a lot of these days, right?
Absolutely. It's this idea that spirituality is personal, and you don't need a formal structure to connect with something bigger than yourself.
Yeah.
But President Oaks challenges that idea a bit. He argues that being part of a church actually helps us become better people.
And it's not just about the teachings or doctrines. It's about being in a community where you're surrounded by people who are striving for the same things.
Right. You're learning from each other, you're supporting each other, you're setting an example for each other. He even uses a sports analogy, saying that athletes get better by practicing together as a team, not just on their own.
It's that sense of shared purpose and collective effort that elevates everyone. But he also acknowledges that people get turned off from church for different reasons. Like some folks might feel like they're not getting anything out of it or that the teachings are irrelevant to their lives.
And then there are those who have had bad experiences. Maybe they felt judged or unwelcome or just didn't connect with the people there. I think he does a good job of recognizing that those feelings are valid.
He doesn't just dismiss those concerns. In fact, he even shares a story about someone who was feeling disillusioned with church.
Oh, yeah. And they ended up finding a way to make it meaningful by shifting their focus to serving others. It became less about what they were getting out of it and more about what they could contribute.
It's like that saying, be the change you want to see in the world. You can sit there and complain about what's wrong, or you can actively try to make things better.
Right. And I think that idea ties in with something that Spencer W. Kimball, another leader in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, said. He said that we don't go to church to be entertained or even just to be taught. We go to worship.
It's about actively participating, not just being a passive observer.
And that active participation, especially when it's focused on serving others, is what President Oaks says can help us overcome selfishness.
He contrasts that with how society often encourages us to focus on our own individual needs and wants. Like it's all about me, me, me.
It's this constant pressure to prioritize our own comfort and convenience above everything else. But he argues that church is a space where we can learn to look outward and think about the needs of others.
And there's a practical side to this too, especially for families. Being part of a church community creates a network of support. It reinforces shared values, and it helps pass those values down through generations.
You're surrounded with people who are striving for similar things, who have similar beliefs, and who can offer guidance and support.
It's like having an extended family that shares your values and helps you raise your kids with those values.
And that's where he starts to talk specifically about the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Yeah.
He emphasizes that they believe they have the complete teachings of Jesus Christ and the authority to perform important religious rituals or ordinances.
So he's laying out what makes this church unique, and he talks about how their structure is designed to help people grow spiritually. And they really emphasize repentance, which is basically acknowledging mistakes and trying to do better.
It's not about being perfect. It's about constantly striving to improve and become more like Christ. And he points to their system of membership councils as an example. These councils aren't meant to be punishments. They're more like opportunities to get support and work towards forgiveness and change.
It's all about creating a system where people can constantly improve and get closer to God. And speaking of structure, we can't forget about their massive emphasis on service.
Absolutely. President Oaks highlights things like missionary work and work done in temples as prime examples of how they're organized to help others.
It's not just about individual acts of kindness. It's about having an organized system that mobilizes resources and people to make a real difference in the world.
He even ties this back to their history. He mentions the Mormon pioneers, who are known for their incredible cooperation and hard work. And he says that same spirit of working together is alive and well today in their global humanitarian efforts.
Think about all the work they do, providing medical supplies, feeding the hungry, helping refugees, disaster relief through their Helping Hands program. It's pretty remarkable when you consider the scale of their efforts.
It's a testament to their commitment to serving others and making a positive impact in the world.
So we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about why people might be pulling away from organized religion, the benefits of being part of a faith community, and some specific aspects of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. But we're just getting started. When we come back, we'll continue unpacking President Oaks's talk and see where this deep dive takes us. Stay tuned.
Yeah, there's a lot more to explore here. This is really interesting stuff.
It is. All right, we'll be back in a bit. We're back and diving deeper into this idea of needing a church. You know, one thing that really struck me from the first part of President Oaks's talk is this emphasis on personal responsibility. He's not just saying, show up and you're good. He's talking about actively engaging, serving, and contributing to the community.
Yeah, it's like he's saying you have to be an active participant in your own spiritual growth and in the growth of those around you.
Yeah.
It can't just be a passive thing.
It's not enough to just warm a pew, right? You have to be all in.
Exactly. And I think that ties in nicely with his point about how being part of a church helps us combat selfishness. Because when you're actively serving others, you're naturally shifting your focus away from your own needs and desires.
It's a counterbalance to that me-first mentality that we see so much in society today. And he gives some really compelling examples of how this plays out in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Yeah.
Like their deeply ingrained culture of service.
Oh, yeah. That's a huge part of their identity. It's not just something they do on the side. It's woven into the fabric of their beliefs and practices.
He even brings up the Mormon pioneers again, who were known for their incredible resilience and their willingness to help each other.
Right. And he says that same spirit of cooperation is still alive and well today, especially in their global humanitarian efforts.
I mean, think about the scale of what they do. Providing medical supplies, feeding the hungry, helping refugees, disaster relief.
It's pretty remarkable how they managed to organize these massive projects all over the world.
It takes a lot of coordination, resources, and dedication, but it also speaks to their shared sense of purpose.
Yeah, it shows that they're not just talking about serving others. They're actually putting into action in a big way.
So we've talked a lot about the community aspect of church, but what about the individual's spiritual journey? President Oaks spends a good chunk of time talking about how being part of a church can help people repent and grow closer to God.
Right, and specifically how the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints provides a structure for that growth.
Yeah.
He talks about how they believe they have the full teachings of Jesus Christ and the authority to perform certain rituals or ordinances that they see as essential steps in the process of spiritual progression.
It's like a roadmap to getting closer to God. And he specifically mentions baptism and something called the eternal covenant of marriage.
Oh, yes. That's a big one for them. They believe that marriage isn't just a legal contract. It's about creating a bond that lasts forever, even after this life.
It's a really beautiful concept, this idea that love and family relationships can transcend death.
It definitely shapes their whole approach to family and relationships.
And he's very clear that they believe receiving these eternal blessings hinges on obedience to God's laws. He even quotes a current leader in the church, President Nelson, who said, "We cannot wish our way into the presence of God. We are to obey the laws upon which that blessing is predicated."
So it's not just about believing, it's about acting on those beliefs. It's about living a life that aligns with your values.
And it's interesting because while he lays out these very specific beliefs, he also acknowledges that good works are done by people of all faiths and no faith at all.
Yeah, he's not saying that only members of his church can be good people or make a positive difference in the world. He's simply explaining the benefits and opportunities that he sees in being a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
It's about sharing a perspective, not judging others.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And as he wraps up this section of his talk, he circles back to this idea of being stronger together. He says that striving to be better followers of Christ is more effective when we're doing it alongside other believers.
It's about that sense of belonging, that shared purpose, that collective energy that lifts us all up. We're all on this journey together, supporting each other, learning from each other.
It's like having a team of cheerleaders rooting you on.
Okay, we're going to take a quick pause here, but don't go anywhere. When we come back, we'll dive into some of the personal stories and thought-provoking questions that emerge from this talk. Stay with us. Okay, we're back. And I've got to say, this deep dive into the need for a church has really got me thinking, especially that story about Kenneth and Lucille. You remember them, right?
Yeah, the couple who didn't feel like they needed to go to church.
Yeah, they thought they could be good people, raise their kids with good values, all without organized religion.
It's a perspective we hear a lot these days, like the spiritual but not religious thing.
Totally. And it makes me wonder, like, what would President Oaks say to them if he was sitting down with them, just having a conversation?
Well, I think he'd start by acknowledging their good intentions. He seems like a pretty respectful guy, but he'd probably gently nudge them to consider what they might be missing, like all the benefits that come with being part of a faith community.
The support, the shared values, the opportunities to serve.
Yeah, those things can be harder to come by when you're going it alone.
And I bet he'd share some personal stories, like how his own faith has been strengthened through church, or how he's seen firsthand the positive impact of collective worship and service.
He'd probably talk about some of those core beliefs too, like the restored gospel, the importance of baptism, the eternal nature of families.
But I don't think it would feel pushy, more like an invitation to explore and see if those ideas resonate.
It's about opening a door, not closing minds.
Speaking of resonating, there's that story about Parley P. Pratt. He was an early leader in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
And he just lit up when he learned about the restored gospel, right?
Totally. It wasn't just a set of rules or rituals for him. It was this deeply personal, transformative experience.
And I think that's what sometimes gets lost in this whole DIY spirituality thing.
Like, you can read all the self-help books in the world, but actually experiencing love, purpose, connection within a community,
That's a whole different ballgame.
it's like church, at its best, can be this laboratory for spiritual growth.
It might be messy, it might be imperfect, but it's a place to experiment, learn, stumble, and ultimately become more connected to something bigger than yourself.
Okay, so here's the thing that keeps swirling in my brain. President Oaks acknowledges that good works are done by people of all faiths and no faith. So if goodness isn't limited to one particular religion, what's the unique role of the church in today's world?
Ooh, that's the question, isn't it? Is it about preserving tradition, providing a sense of belonging, offering a structured path to spiritual enlightenment? Or is it something more, something we're still figuring out?
Right. Maybe it's different for everyone.
I think the important thing is that we're asking these questions,
That we're having these conversations.
that we're open to exploring and discovering what role, if any, organized religion plays in our own individual journeys.
I love that.
Too.
This deep dive has been so thought-provoking, and I hope it sparks some reflection for you too. Thanks for joining us. Until next time, keep seeking, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.